Provisional Rem's Paranoia. Whether Oni or snakes live there, one abducted to the capital city Lupugana in the middle of the battle in the walled city of Geralt and placed under house arrest. She understands that it's objectively the situation she had been placed in, but I do not truly feel that I harbor as much of a feeling of endangerment as that makes it sound like. Cane in hand, Rem gave a sigh while walking through a hallway expansive in width. In position, Rem was meant to be what you'd consider a prisoner of war and hostage. However, she had no soldiers attached to her to watch over her while she walked through the mansion as she's doing. Of course, there are human guards posted around the premises here and there, but there were none keeping constant watch over Rem. Should she call this carelessness? Or perhaps she should think of it as them looking down on her. It is probably neither. If she had to say, this must be them aptly appraising Rem's judgment. Rem is the one captive here, but she understands the meaning of her being used as a hostage, and of the fact that even if she was allowed freedom within the premises, she was not given the freedom to go outside. If Rem considers her position, it is proof that she's being valued by the other party. The lord of this mansion, the one who has locked Rem up, the chancellor of the empire, Berstet's Fondalfin. Berstet's, while holding the office of chancellor, also led a rebellion against the empire. From Rem's point of view as someone who had been thrown about by the empire's civil war, she couldn't really approve of Berstet's actions, but Rem herself didn't hold a bad impression of Berstet's. Of course, it was hard to hold a positive impression, but the fact they exchanged words directly made her think so. Berstet's had not rebelled out of selfishness, but had acted out of concern for the future of the empire. If she had only heard that reason, because the problem would be on Abel's side, so she would be unable to defend him. However, as far as Rem knew, the person known as Abel is the reason for Berstet's rebelling, and he was not the kind of man to thoughtlessly leave that main cause alone. Abel-san has his own way of thinking. Even if I understand that, I wish he would have shared that with Berstet's. Perhaps, if she was told that if they had been able to talk things out, then this rebellion wouldn't have taken place, then would that help things? Or not? That was something Rem failed to tell. Could Rem say that the situation she was left in was a bit better even then? Would Rem have been able to reach her current state of mind without the Empire's civil war? Rem thought about herself, who has nothing outside of the memories of approximately this single month, and she pressed down on her chest. What had driven Rem, who had woken up in a completely empty state, to her wits' end, was the existence of Subaru, who knew Rem and had tried to hold on to her somehow. While it was difficult to hold the same impression she had of him at the beginning, that of the owner of such an evil stench, it was undeniable that such a way of facing him had only come about because various circumstances had held her down. While not the best way to put it, you could also say it was necessary for her to shelve her quarrel with him, so she cooperated with him, and while she kept that shelved, she lost the chance to unshelve it. However the case, when that person comes back to Geralt, he will surely be very surprised. Geralt had been attacked by a swarm of flying dragons and ended up in a half-destroyed state. There, a great number of their allies had been injured, and then Rem had been abducted. What would he, Subaru, think of that? That she was sure that he would not be able to help but think of it was something that somehow made Rem uncomfortable. It was likely precisely because of that. I see you've got a long face, wife-san. At the moment she opened the doors to the room she arrived upon, the inner side of her heart was read immediately by Flop, who was laying down in the center of a bed, hovering her hands above the resting Flop's wounds. As he lays on the bed, she performs healing magic on him. On his bandaged body, even now painful-looking claw marks still remain carved. His wounds now having closed quite a bit, it was fair to say now that he has escaped any danger to his life. But even then, frustration remained. If she could draw out the former power of this healing magic more, she could have healed this heavy wound in but a moment. This heavy wound of Flop's that he received by protecting her. However, if the wife-san could have instantly healed my wounds, then Madeline would lose any reason to abduct the wife-san. Perhaps, wouldn't she lose any reason to spare the city, Geralt? So this is all in how you think about it, wife-san. It was because your healing magic was crude that lives were saved. If you think about it like that, there's nothing wrong with being green right. When she was lowering the hands that were aloft his wound, it was once again that the insides of her heart were red. Rem was surprised by that, so Flop closed one eye and tried to poke a bit of fun at her. She thought herself pathetic at the fact he was being attentive to her while being injured. She felt a reliability from him and honest admiration for Flop's unchanging attitude even when he's in that state. That Rem wasn't more depressed than was necessary in this condition was undoubtedly thanks to the bright Flop being put in the same situation as her. That I cannot allow the injured Flopson to exert himself is also a reason for why we can't create any opportunities to escape from here, though. Whoa there, bit harsh there, aren't you, wife-son? But well, it's indeed a fact that I'm in a half-dead, half-alive state where I'll die if I move around carelessly, so I really can't argue with you there. However, I believe it'd be difficult even if you didn't have me with you, because this mansion is her turf. Madeline Sands, right? Flop, having laughed wryly, gently nodded to the name Rem whispered. The flying dragon General Madeline Eschart. She was the General First Class who had attacked the walled city with a swarm of flying dragons at her command, and the one responsible for abducting Rem and Flop into the capital. If she, who is one of the top powerhouses even in the Empire, came at them, they would have their lives taken in the blink of an eye. That it hasn't come to pass was because of the ties between her and Flop. Flopson, what is Madeline San? We have a shared acquaintance, you see. That we just both hit it off so well because of that would be quite inaccurate to say, but the fact remains that it is the one reason for her overlooking me. However, know that it might only be on the scope of overlooking. It's likely we'll be bitten should we try anything careless. In that case, it seems like it would be difficult to request our release. That would be tough, yes. Of course, I also wish for that. For I am so worried about husband-cun's jealousy should I keep the wife-son with me for too long. That might not be, quite as you put it. Is that really so? For a moment, she turned her eyes away from what Flop pointed out, and she became lost for words from the preceding question. This was the aftershock of what she had been thinking by herself before arriving at Flop's room. What Flop had said was not wrong. She believes he might be worried about her, though of course she doesn't believe that it is because she is with Flop. I don't believe he's jealous, more that he's worried about me and Flop. But Medium-san also qualifies for that. Goodness, that is quite true indeed. I really have scarcely experienced being separated from Medium for this long, so I think it's likely it'll become a bit of a pickle. Well, my sister's a bit of a special case who can always be cheery, but I may have taken being away from my sister a bit harder than I thought I would. His tone remains bright, but it's unlikely his feelings for his far-away little sister are a lie. Just how much of Flop's usual attitude is his true self, and how much is a strong front construct he made to not have Rem be concerned? Rem can't quite tell, and precisely because she can't tell, Rem scolded herself as she cannot allow herself to be too pampered by that. Let's both do the best we can, even in this situation. In the meantime. Flopson, you rest. You must hurry your recovery if it's even one day sooner. Negotiations or use of force, whichever of those they choose, he needs to get his body in perfect shape, or else their options will narrow. To increase the hands you can choose to play, it is first important to solidify your foundations. Hearing such fighting spirit from Rem, Flop's blue eyes widen. His puzzled, surprised face is so rare, Rem calls out to him with a Flopson. Hearing that, Flop shakes his head to the side sluggishly. No, it's just that. Don't get mad at what I'm about to say, okay? I will endeavor not to. I want you to try your best. You see, the wife-son's words just now felt like they had something to them that somewhat resembled husband-kun. So I was just thinking how married couples do resemble each other after all. To those words the laughing Flop gave as an answer, Rem gave a small gasp. She tried so hard, but not getting angry was difficult. Oni girl, how is Flop? Once she finished her conversation with Flop, Rem returned to her room, and what welcomed her was a brusque voice. On the other side of the room was a window thrown open through which wind blew in. On that windowsill sat with bad manners a girl whose sky-blue hair was swaying. Her hair which had two very prominent black horns poking out of it. Hey you, did you listen to what the dragon said? That sudden arrival with no greeting, and her appearance that held onto one's gaze had birthed a momentary silence. At said moment, she grew discontent, and her yellow eyes narrowed. She thought she lacked patience, and that even if she narrowed her eyes to intimidate her, she could not diminish the cuteness of her outward appearance. But Rem did not dare express that out loud. She is the personification of a powerful dragon hiding its strength. She is Madeline Eschart. Even if, say, she cannot hurt me due to being entangled by various conditions. Wasat, no, could you not come in by knocking the door instead of from the window? Are the likes of you intending to limit what the dragon can do? Again, no. It's just that this is the second floor. Perhaps to Madeline there was not much difference between the first and second floors, but there are stairs for a reason, so she would like her to be understanding of that. On the topic of being understanding, would you please refrain from referring to me as Oni girl? Why? Just as the dragon calls the dragon, it is an obvious to call an Oni an Oni. Even if you refer to me as an Oni, I don't feel as such to me, so it makes me feel restless. Oni girl is what Madeline kept fully confidently referring to her as, which Rem was now fed up with. It's not that she wants to reject the fact she's an Oni, but it is simply that she has no memory of such, and it registers to her referring to her previous self who was an Oni. Please call me Rem. You also call Flopson his name, do you not? Flop's special. You should bear that in mind. Then could you also have me, you, be special as well, was what Rem wanted to continue with, but Madeline's serious intimidation pierced through her. Instantly, Rem felt the sensation of her innards shrinking inwards, and couldn't mouth any more words. Looking with eyes that had become slitted at Rem, who had been silenced, Madeline came down to the floor from the windowsill and said, "You're being allowed to be on that hag's words, and because of Flop's treatment. Do not misattribute the dragon's kindliness and clemency. When it comes to saving Flop, I have other means too. I will bear that in mind." HMPH. Scoffing, Madeline's slitted pupils returned to normal, and Rem was released from the pressure she was being put under. If just a single word was out of place, then literally, she would have incurred Madeline's wrath. Rem, now remembering once again that she was balancing on a tightrope, took several deep breaths. After which, with her gaze silently fixed on Madeline, Flop's injuries are currently stable. While I believe it necessary that he rests for a while, he's past the worst of it. Are you retarded? If Flop is healed, then the dragon will have no more business with you. And yet, you report stupidly honestly to the dragon. Do you not want to keep your life? Madeline told that while looking straight at Rem, who had answered the question she was asked at the beginning about Flop's condition. Rem said no, at Madeline's eyes, which seemed to be looking at something hard to believe, and shook her head side to side. Of course, I want my life. I cannot go dying. Then why? I could have lied and put a stopgap on that for the moment, but establishing a relationship without lies with Madeline was something I believed to be the correct choice right now. Hearing Rem's answer, Madeline goes wide-eyed. She was caught by neither anger nor displeasure, but the simple astonishment of being caught by surprise. Rem walked closer towards her, to the windowsill, and gazed at the view outside. She could see the well-arranged garden, together with the heavy number of Imperial guards deployed in it. At the far reaches, glances of the Imperial capital here and there was also a very beautiful and outstanding palace built out of crystal. It was a world unknown to Rem, this Imperial capital of Lupugana's sights. But being in an unknown place where you know nothing is something that comes naturally to me, which is why I've decided to challenge it. Challenge? Madeline-san, though you have nothing that would bond you to me even for just a moment, there may be something that could perhaps make you hesitate. Rem doesn't think anything could get Madeline to turn to her side, and she's not shrewd enough to warm herself up to anyone like Flop does either. But perhaps if it were just a single moment, that's not even a second, Rem might be able to create that gap when it all comes crashing down. That is what Rem considers her own little way of fighting. Abducted to the Imperial capital and held captive, Rem had taken that into consideration as something that he would be worrying about. She can already picture him trying to push his limits, and that he likely wouldn't even lend his ears to her telling him that she wishes he'd stop. In that case, if she can't avoid him coming, then at least she will remove the pebbles from the road. That was Rem's captive way of fighting. The dragon doesn't understand what it is you're thinking, but the dragon pays no mind to the petty ways in which weak humans resist. If you keep to what the dragon tells you here, then do whatever you want after. Depending on things, that previous anger was at risk of flaring up again in that exchange. However, Madeline overlooked Rem's resistance and didn't attempt to challenge it. Unlike with Burstet's, she was looking down on her clear as day. However, it was precisely because she was thought of as harmless that there should be something that only Rem can do. By the way, there was another outsider in the mansion other than me and Flop. Do you know who that is, Madeline-san? Only heard that she's someone the hag guest Spirit Eater brought along. Spirit Eater. Rem realized she meant the Empire's general first class that had attacked the walled city once before, Arikia. The one Rem talked about was a woman strolling around in a chair with wheels on it that she saw around the residence. Is it likely that she who was thought to be under a similar position as Rem and Flop was also under house arrest? If she hears her out, she may gain a reason to progress on the situation and to go against her feelings of impatience. To depend on something other than power, what a strange Oni girl you are. So whispered Madeline with her golden eyes narrowed side-eyeing Rem, who was silently deep in thought. Not paying any mind to the evaluation from the dragonkin, within this residence that could be called a dragon's den, Rem continued to grope for a means to rebel against the situation she's in, with seemingly the diligence of a certain someone, somewhere. And